Good morning and welcome to At Home with Roby. I'm Patrick McIsaac, president of Roby Electric, and along with me is not Trent Haston. I've got David McGuire.
That's right.
Chief Operating Officer at Andrew Roby Construction.
I have big shoes to fill.
He's a 9.
I'm going to try.
Maybe a 9.5.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what shoe size is. He always wears those big cowboy boots. And we're talking about Trent, who's not here. It's not nice to talk about somebody when they're not in the room.
We miss Trent today. I'm going to do my best.
We do. I think you're going to do a wonderful job, Dave. We've got Ken Szymanski, Executive Director from the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association, GCAA. And if you have any interest in learning on why all these apartments are being built on every corner in Charlotte, there's very good reason, I will say, and Ken is going to give us the education we need to understand why.
If there's any example of the growth of Charlotte, all you need to do is look at the apartments going up. So Ken is the man behind the scenes and knows it all. So, yeah, stay tuned to hear from Ken.
Well, it's economics, right, Dave? It's supply and demand, and Ken will tell us why the supply has increased the way it has increased. And to your point, it is. I mean, Charlotte is a growing city. We want that. We've always been about growth. We spent this past weekend at the 100th anniversary of Camp Green. Turnbull, Pursley, and I represented our companies, and talking about the initial growth strategy of Charlotte. We had Dan Morrill on the show. If you missed his show, it's a really neat history of Charlotte. Go back and listen to the podcast about the Camp Green story. Dan tells this story so well, and he will tell you that, hey, we're a growth city. That started back 100 years ago with Camp Green.
1917. 60,000 troops. 60,000 had as many troops as people in the city.
Remarkable. I mean, if you're unfamiliar with this piece of history within our great city, do yourself a favor and just Google Camp Green. A couple of things that you'll find is that if you're familiar with Artie Avenue, which we, of course, are, our office flanks Artie Avenue, that was short for Artillery Avenue, and Remount was where the remount station was for Camp Green. So it's a tremendous piece of our history that I think that would, if you haven't heard our show, go listen to our show because Dan, again, tells the story well. But he also says that that's where this growth occurred. So fast forward 100 years, now we have Ken Szymanski, who's going to tell us what's changed, why this big change, why this boom in the apartment industry.
Yeah. No, he equated it to when we had the Camp Green establishment for a few years here. It's the same as really kind of like the national exposure behind a Democratic National Convention, the Super Bowl. I mean, it's a springboard thing that heck, I'm from Charlotte, and I did not know that history, and it was fascinating.
And now we have the PGA Championship, talking about being on the world stage. It'll be here in a couple of weeks. It's pretty cool. Well, Dave, I'm going to tell the story about how we met, and you might not remember this. The first time I met Dave McGuire. I started at Ferguson Enterprises in 2004, and you said you started in 2001.
January of 01.
So we were management. I was a management trainee. I believe you were as well. And at the time, Ferguson, what a wonderful company, huge partner of ours. We have nothing but love for Ferguson. But what they would do is they bring in like 10 to 15 kids that had just graduated college. And at the time, you were required to work 55 hours a week. I remember getting there at 6 in the morning, and you would not leave before 5. Sometimes it was 6.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a lot to ask a kid that just graduated from college. Dave went through this, too. We were unloading water heater trucks and moving cast iron tubs. And it was kind of funny coming in as a trainee. The people that had made it through this program kind of like wouldn't really respond very kindly towards the trainees. It wasn't like a hazing in a fraternity, but I'm not saying it was not that way.
You're kind of a pledge.
Yeah, you were kind of like
friendlier.
Friendlier. But Dave was the only one out of the group. I remember I was sitting in the warehouse. Dave, I made a point to come out, introduce himself to me, ask me all these questions about where I'm from, where I went to school. And where I was living in Charlotte and that kind of stuff. And so Dave was like the friend to the trainee, where some of the other folks that had made it to an inside sales or an outside sales or even management role kind of looked at the trainees as sort of a second-class citizen.
Well, Patrick, I'm glad you felt that way. I was probably trying to recruit you to do some tasks so you'd like me, so I wouldn't have to stack up the cast iron on during inventory. But no, that's great. That training program, it's great. It was old school.
Unbelievable.
It taught work ethic and diligence, and really they were trying to weed out the folks that couldn't hang. So kudos to Ferguson, and met a lot of great lifetime friends. And our relationship is an example of that. We
both did. And so Dave and I, obviously, fast forward years later, had the opportunity. In fact, Dave sort of reached out to me and said, hey, we're thinking about doing this thing with this electric company. I think I was sitting there going, there's no way. I don't know anything about electricity, or I know electricity, but electrical contracting. So Dave was really my conduit to get in with the family of companies. So Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a lifelong friendship created by Ferguson's training program, which is top notch, Dave. I mean, I think that if you could recreate that thing, and I know they still use it. I mean, that's how they really experienced the growth that they were able to experience.
Yeah, so pretty cool. The one thing that Patrick didn't mention is so that when I got the opportunity at Andrew Roby to come in for operations, I was managing one of Ferguson's satellite branches right off South Graham Street near Uptown. Great tailgating spot for the Panthers
And
games.
now it's gone. It's going to be apartments.
I know, it's nuts. It's going to be apartments. But Patrick had earned the opportunity, and I told the general manager at the time, Craig Montgomery, I said, well, listen, for what it's worth, you probably already have picked Patrick, but Patrick's the guy for the job. And so he came in. He was a few years younger than me, ran that division, took it to another level. And then when we had the opportunity to Roby Electric, I was like, I know he doesn't know anything, but gosh, if we could ever talk Patrick into it to leading that business, that he's the man. So anyway, we're very fortunate to have you join, and it's been great.
Well, yeah, what's funny about that is you trained me for that position in a red Andrew Roby pickup truck. Because I didn't have a car. I think that there was a company vehicle swap that had to happen, and you had already received your car for Andrew Roby, and I had taken your truck that you had from Ferguson. So you would come every morning, and he basically taught me how to run that with the red. And that shows good fortitude from Andrew Roby's side with the partnership of Ferguson to allow that to happen as well.
Patrick, the truth is, Patrick got so sick of me trying to help. He was like, dude, just leave, please. Enough is enough.
No, Dave and I are great friends, and we're looking forward to having Ken Szymanski on the show.
Yep.
Anything you'd ever want to know about Charlotte growth in the apartment multifamily sector, Ken is going to share with us. He is a wealth of knowledge. He's been in the industry for, I believe, 40 years.
40 years, 29 in Charlotte.
Looking at him, I think he started when he was 4. But that's okay. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're listening to At Home with Roby.